right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition, episode 2 of the Colt-Blooded podcast. This is my host, Drew Lynch.
And this is my host, Isak Allen.
Hey.
We introduce each other here because we like to give back.
And we're progressive.
Yeah, we are progressive.
Mm-hmm.
We're both from Indianapolis, born and raised, same hospital bed.
Different dad, same mom.
Different dad, same mom. It was a hell of a month.
Yeah.
And last episode we discussed the free agency and how Chris Ballard handled free agency. And now we're dropping a special edition of Colt-Blooded, the podcast, all things Colts related, about the draft. Because the draft is a very exciting time. I think Chris Ballard holds his self in high regard about how he can scout. And I'm not, there's no smoke in that. I think he came from scouting, and a lot of these GMs do. But he came from scouting, I think, in Chicago at one point, and then he was with Kansas City at another point.
He drafted Tyreek, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, really?
I think so. I think he was part of that. I could be wrong about that, but he was there for a lot of their important additions.
Yeah. So this is kind of where he gets to shine, and I think that is, I think that's illuminated by his approach in free agency and the draft, because a lot of these guys in our division specifically went out and did a lot of splashy moves in free agency, and maybe we have the opportunity to have some splash with the draft. And splash comes much less of a splash when it comes so much later.
Yeah.
You don't get to see it right away.
It's more of like a sort of like you fell in the pool.
Yeah.
It's a little more of like, it's like the first 10 picks are like cannonball, like Will Ferrell and Anchorman, like Ron Burgundy, cannonball.
Yeah.
If Ballard had the first picks in the first 10, he'd be like, hey, everybody, come see how good I look.
Are you watching? Mom, are you watching?
Are you watching?
Watch. That kid that demands you watch.
But he's got 15, so he's just like, hey guys, I'm floating on the little tube.
He is. But I also mean like the acquisitions that a lot of the other GMs in the division make with free agency, that feels like such a splash. But with a draft, somebody has to develop. It has to take time. It really is not as splashy or flashy as, say, like somebody like that you acquire in free agency.
Well, here's why I am like so pro Ballard, even though last time we talked, I have my issues with him. But although you pulled me around to your side, you lassoed me with a blue and white lasso.
We are in the South.
Yeah, but the thing why I am Team Ballard is that, you look at other teams that do make those free agency splashes, and you always look as a Colts fan and go, God, I wish we would have done at least one of those.
Sure.
But you never know how that's going to jibe with the draft picks. And there might be some, like, what if all of a sudden you end up getting an awesome tight end in free agency or something, like the best one ever.
Right.
And then suddenly somehow...
Never happened, but right.
Right. But then suddenly... that was like the worst position group I could have come up with just then. Yeah. Okay, let's go back.
The best long snapper.
The best long snapper in punter. And then all of a sudden the best punter comes along, let's say you get like the best wide receiver available. Let's say you get like a Tyreek level wide receiver in free agency, and then you've got like you go to the draft, you try to make some splashes, then say like somehow in the 6th round, you get another receiver that ends up exploding as like a Tyreek type. Well, It's like now you've got 2 ones. Maybe there's no room for that because now you have other good receivers already on the roster.
Right.
And you just wanted to supplement one, but somehow but let's say you missed on like all your linebackers in free agency. And you know what I mean? So the way Ballard does it is where it's like establish the position, establish that they're good first. The only way you can do that is through the draft.
Right.
Get them to fit in with team, because then if they don't, they get cut or whatever, released to someone else. And so it's like if he can, I get it. Building the core helps because then you just have a knowledge of these players already for years. Whereas with free agency, like all of a sudden you can get free agent busts as much as you can get draft busts because they don't fit in with your system and they don't fit in with the other draft picks because now you may load up on one position too much.
Right.
Which is why, so I am into the way that Ballard does things, but.
Yeah, and he really has incentivized a lot of our own players by paying them and keeping them in-house, which we talked about. Yeah, DeForest Buckner just got extended 2 years for $46 million. Well worth it. He's top 5 in the league at the position when it comes to disruption and sacks.
Aaron Donald's gone. I think he's top 3.
Yeah, well,
maybe 2, honestly.
Oof. I mean, I don't know. I mean, by the way, he is what Shane Steichen recently called in an interview. He's like the model Colt. He is a professional. He's someone who he comes in, he takes care of his body. He really is the anchor for our defense, which I think it's interesting that we're talking about him, not just contract related, but when he got drafted, we acquired him not through the draft, but we did give up a draft pick, and I think that's probably the last thing that was really splashy or flashy that we did with the draft, which it was with the 13th pick in, I believe, the 2020 draft that we acquired him from the 49ers.
And we definitely won that because the 49ers got Javon Kinlaw, who is nowhere near what DeForest Buckner brings at the same position. Yeah,
so it really does feel like if Ballard wants to take a flyer on somebody, it's got to be like a proven product, which is why last episode we talked about he went after Danielle Hunter from the Vikings, the pass rusher, and then he went after Snead as well. It's not like he didn't take those swings. He definitely did to try and go after some veterans to elevate the roster, but
Ballard is like he is going to take one, like he steps up to bat, he's going to take one big swing. And then if he misses, he's going to go, I'm just going to bunt. I'm going to get on base. I just want to get on base.
Yeah.
I'm going to be Ichiro Suzuki. I'm no Mark McGwire here.
He is one of the safest GMs, I would say, in the league.
Yes,
he's safe. I don't know. Sometimes he can be. I think that's why, this year I'm excited because I know that they met with Malik Neighbors, which is strange. That's strange to me.
I saw a mock that had them trading up in the first round, and I was like, you are out of your gourd.
I know.
If you think
not out of your gourd.
Out of your freaking... Hey, we're pussyfooting around and out of our gourds.
We're not
going
to be pussyfooting with all these gourds.
No, but that's why... Look, when I saw that, it made me think of... I want to do another special segment of things that are going to happen before Ballard trades up. So these are things that are going to happen before Ballard trades up in the first round. All right. Number 1, Limp Bizkit is going to have a revival album that goes top 10 on the charts.
Number 2, people will start drinking the water in Mexico.
Yes. Number 3, Vrabel is going to go back to the Titans.
Number 4, Vrabel becomes one of our coaches on the Colts.
Number 5, Gus Bradley goes back to head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Number 6, Gus Bradley does man-to-man coverage.
No more cover 3. We're
no
going
more cover 3.
Man-to-man
we go man-to-man.
with Kenny Moore and whoever the hell else is on the roster.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see if we can get 10 of these in.
Okay.
Number 7. Let's see. Number 7, what was it that just happened? Number 7, O.J. Simpson's coming back from the dead.
Whoa! Oh, number 8, O.J. Simpson plays for the Colts in tandem. Best running back duo in the league.
JT and O.J. JT O.J. The judge. How do you even say that? Odged. OJTT.
So, yeah.
Number, what are we on? 9?
I think we're on 8 or 9.
Number 9. Number 9, P. Diddy is going to own an NFL franchise.
Oh, geez.
Before Ballard trades up in the first round.
Oh, no. Oh, no. And number 10, which is actually the most likely, so we'll move it up to number 1. We get canceled for this list.
We're not going to get canceled. Colts fans don't care about canceling anybody.
That's true. So, all right. Here's what I have here. Okay, we have 7 picks. This year. We are projected to select 15th overall, and I wanted to get into needs that we have from the roster, and I want, before we answer this, okay, before we get into what are the most important needs that we the biggest holes that we need to fill on the roster, I want you to consider that we don't know necessarily what Blake Freeland will be. Okay, we don't necessarily know what Daniel Scott can do. He was the safety that got drafted last year. He ended up going down with a season-ending injury last year, so we don't know what he is capable of. And we also should be considering that we feel so good in this roster, which is why we re-signed everybody. So is there someone? Are we more likely to go offense or defense with this pick, do you think?
I think defense, simply because of how much offense is going to be gone by the time we get to our pick. I think Terry and Arnold is top, is going to be who we get.
Really?
I think Terry
over
and Arnold
Quinyon Mitchell.
I think so, just because, again, Ballard with the traits. I mean, and Terry and Arnold's just. I mean, I know Ballard values the Senior Bowl so much, and that's where Quinyon Mitchell showed out.
Yeah.
And I mean, I didn't know what division or what kind of school conference that his team was in, so I looked up highlights. I don't know if you looked up Quinyon Mitchell highlights.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, he went to Toledo.
I mean, yeah, there was not a whole lot of competition there. I think it's going to be between those two, but I don't know. I feel like when push comes to shove, you go Bama with defense.
Interesting.
You just have to.
Really?
I mean, there's so many good. There's. I mean, I guess there have been a few busts out of Bama, but they have churned out lots of defenders that have had good long careers.
They kind of are like a tried and true.
Yeah, especially on defense. Offense, not so much. I mean, Tua is like a kind of an outlier when you think about it, as far as how good he's done, and and you had to put him in the right system. You had to put him with Mike McDaniel.
That's true, because he wasn't thriving with his last coach. That's for sure.
But it's interesting you bring up those offensive linemen. Or Blake Freeland. Do you think that the Colts might go O-line early?
They'll go line on both sides of the ball as often as they can, and it'll probably be in the later rounds for sure, because they feel confident, I think, at least in their offensive line. But Ballard loves the big guys up front, man. He can't not pick there.
But to address what we did last time, I wouldn't be opposed to Ballard going edge at 15, because I know that the class doesn't have that star power at edge like it's had in the past. There's no Max Crosby's in this draft. There's no, I mean, Aaron Donald's interior, but he goes outside too. There's no Aaron Donald's in the draft. There's no Myles Garrett's.
Sure.
There's Jared Verse, Dallas Turner, super talented people, but you never know.
Right.
One of them might explode into some a type of player that people have to then game plan for, like we talked about last time. Shift the entire offense, which changes the way the defense plays overall.
Yeah.
Instead of this sack by committee BS. Like, I'm just done with it. I'm done with this sack by committee thing.
I don't think it's going to change. I think the fact that last year we had recorded the most sacks from any other season, and that was by sack by committee. I don't think it's going to change.
I know, but we talked last time about how we would have lots of stretches of whole quarters where with no pressure, no sacks, not even getting 5 feet within the radius of the quarterback, and it's like that's because they don't have to shift. They don't have to shift. You just got to wear him down when it's sacked by committee. You kind of wear him down, but it's like remember those days when it's Dwight Freeney and Robert Mathis, and it was like any moment one of them could just wreck a quarter of play.
That's true.
And that could be what gets Peyton Manning back on the field enough to win the game.
So I'm going to read some names for you right now, okay? And I want you to wait, and then we'll discuss. All right. Jalen Jones, Rodney Thomas, Will Fries, Isaiah Rodgers, EJ Speed, Zaire Franklin. Those are all 6th and 7th round picks.
Okay.
Now, some of those guys, I mean, have proven to be pretty great for us. I mean, some of those are steals, and
I wouldn't say great.
Well, I mean, I think like
they got a lot to
you
prove.
Look at I mean, better than when I say great, I mean great for where their draft position was.
Right.
These are guys that went in their 7th round. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There were some stats last year on Jalen Jones for his coverage. I mean, Rodney Thomas, I'm not super high on him. Will Fries obviously is someone who is a great, he's a great rotational piece. And then you've got, Zaire, he was in round 7 of 2018. I mean,
Zaire is one that
he led the league in tackles.
Zaire was one that coming out of camp, there was lots of good reports. I mean, I feel like there's a lot you can't trust with the media stuff, with the NFL in general, but even, I feel like the closer you get to the team's reporters, like to local reporting, the more you can trust it in a way, but it's still, you still can't completely trust it. But like with Zaire, a lot of times with the Colts, what comes out of camp is the report is like going to be true in the season. As long as those players stay healthy. And Franklin was one of those guys that just always had the juice. Like he always had the energy. He had like Shaquille Leonard level of energy. He just doesn't have the same metrics. So I was surprised to see him do this well.
Yeah.
I knew he'd be a good linebacker for us eventually. But those names you mentioned at cornerback and safety, I'm not sold on Rodney Thomas either.
No.
He did so well right off the bat that it was confusing, but he's like the other side. He's like the Two-Face like villain from Batman if like one face was Nick Cross and one face was Rodney Thomas. And I feel like Nick Cross is the ugly ass face, the ugly Harvey Dent face, and Rodney Thomas is the nice one, where it's like he came in right away, looked great, but wasn't as touted, but he was just the guy that kind of was making plays right away. He was smart, and then he kind of fell off. Whereas Nick Cross is sort of that dude that was just kind of looked ugly out there, but he has the hype. He has all the athletic traits. He has the ability. So it's like if they can go each other's way on this somehow, like if Rodney can teach Chris how to play smarter and read better, and Nick can, I don't know. You can't help someone with their athleticism, but maybe
you can't.
I don't know.
There's just there was so much busted coverage.
Yeah.
There were too many games where it was like, I mean, how could this be happening? And I know that our secondary was just thin when Juju went down, and I think Jalen Jones, he was thrown into the fire for sure. That was his rookie season, and that's a big responsibility. Dallas Flowers, also somebody who he went down, I think, with an Achilles or an ACL tear. And
I'm excited to see him come back.
And then you've got Kenny Moore, who's almost always healthy, knock on wood, and he performs, he performs well.
Flowers was undrafted, right?
I think so. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't see him anywhere here, so likely.
Okay.
But here's what I want to ask you is, how different do you feel? Like, I just don't know that a rookie corner that comes in would necessarily be that much of a difference maker. And we don't necessarily have a return specialist either, which is why I know that Cooper DeJean out of Iowa has also been a name that a lot of people have thrown around, I think he's a phenomenal athlete, but I don't know if it's like, all right, do we draft? Is he someone we're taking at 15 when we're getting like we're getting like the cream of the crop at 15 when all of these offensive players are taken before?
Yeah.
We're really getting the top of the top of the options here with what we're allowed to get our hands on defensively.
I think
because I just think like, all right, the reason what I'm asking you is like if we take if we go up and get like Malik Neighbors and we have our current offensive system, but our defense is like still our defense, okay?
Yeah.
You're just like, that's an insane offense. Like that's a juggernaut of an offense, right?
It is, yeah.
And so that is almost something that makes us seem that much more formidable rather than what I think is going to happen, which is the more sound choice and one that is built for the future, which is going with something like a corner and the high end corner. Even though that's we're gonna do another quiet move where we're competitive, but
so this is the biggest like frustration with me with the draft and where we're drafting, because yes, we do get our sort of pick of the litter with 15 at defense.
Defense, yeah.
But the problem is the Colts have all these committee guys on the secondary, like these sort of like a great deal of good players. No one's great,
Sure.
but a lot of good players.
Well, how many
that
top
could be
corners?
great.
How many top corners can you name right now?
You mean in the NFL?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's Snead, there's Ramsey, there's let's see. That guy from Jacksonville is pretty good. I'm only thinking about our division right now, but that Cisco guy from Jacksonville is pretty good. I don't know if he's top.
You got Sauce Gardner. He's
Sauce.
coming in his third year. You've got Witherspoon over in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
Not which not Surtain. One of them.
Well, he's one too.
No, Surtain. Yeah, Surtain.
Surtain for sure.
I was thinking Cortland Sutton, but no,
Another
that's
Bama
wide
guy.
receiver.
Another
Is he
Bama guy.
really?
Yeah.
So you can't name like a ton of corners where it's just like, oh man, that is such a person who's a difference maker on a team. And even if they are, it doesn't seem to materialize, because as good as Patrick Surtain is, and as good as Sauce Gardner is, you know what I mean? Like, these aren't necessarily, these are premium positions, but they're skill positions. But
I think a guy like Sauce could lock down one side of the field.
oh, definitely.
I think he could. And that's,
definitely.
Because that's the point when you're trying to get a talent-rich guy, like someone who just could change.
But it's not something that you hear about. That's my point. Is like, you don't hear about that. Like, you hear about the Chiefs' offense and you hear about Chris Jones, but
Right.
you don't hear about anybody else other than that. And I think that model is one that the Colts are probably going after. I mean, the whole NFL seems to be trying to go after something like that.
Right. Not
this underrated defense.
Getting a defense that just does enough for the offense to keep putting up points.
Yes.
All right. I see that. And that's, but so, I mean, in that.
I'm not trying to persuade you. I'm just trying to give you like different perspective. That's it.
Listen, I feel attacked.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And I feel
you have triggers and traumas.
my back's up against the wall. Yeah, with Colts, that's like that. I've lived a very charmed life. My Colts trauma is my worst trauma of my life. 95, watching that Hail
Marshall
Mary.
Faulk went away.
Son of a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marshall Faulk. Oh man, I got stories about that. I got a story about that where I think I told you Jim Irsay like lied to me when I was a kid, which makes sense. Okay.
The owner of the Colts lied to you.
Yeah, I was freaking 10, dude. He lied to me, or 13. I was young, and I remember, dude, I was so mad, and I was like young, with a bowl cut.
Well, that's your fault. You can't tell a kid with a bowl cut the truth.
Yeah,
he already doesn't know it.
That's my parents' fault.
Yeah.
I wasn't deciding on my haircuts yet. So I went to their Q&A thing once back in India. It was like, I think it was at the Montgomery Inn Steakhouse. Like every Monday after the game, they would have a Q&A.
This is in deep for you.
Yeah.
You know all the details.
Bro, I was so mad because this was, I think, Peyton's first year. So I got to meet him. That's when he signed my helmet.
Oh, nice.
A biggest head I've ever seen in my entire life. Forehead and all. Like just
Was this
here.
a football helmet?
And yes.
Okay.
And he was he was sitting next to Marvin Harrison. And it's so funny how tiny Marvin looked compared to Peyton. Like Marvin's like my size. It's crazy. He's like 5'10" and like $180. Like, yeah, it's
His
nuts.
son's 6'4".
Yeah, I don't know how that happened.
Yeah.
But
Bizarre.
But anyway, so I remember they were there and Marshall wasn't there. He was whatever. And I asked we had to do a Q&A and I was like the only kid there and I had a jersey on and everything. So I was like, I have a question, and I was all shy. And I just go, Marshall Faulk is my favorite player. I know he's a free agent this year. Are you guys going to keep him? Because he's like the best or whatever. And Jim Irsay goes, look, kid, Marshall Faulk is family and you don't let family go.
Oh, no.
And then the very next day or two later, it was just like Colts, Marshall Faulk signed by the Rams.
I think it was your fault.
And yeah, I put a curse. Put a curse on
I think
there.
I think you were just too cute, but you had the bowl cut.
Yeah, which made it like, that's where curses come from.
Yeah, they
bowl
do.
cuts. You see a guy with a
they
bowl
do.
cut, point and be like, hey, do you need it? Just walk away.
Yeah, dude.
Because he will put a pox on your household.
Your school's in a rough area if you're in a.
But that's why I
bowl
think,
cut.
I don't know this, because maybe you're right then. Sack by committee, defense by committee, if that's the thing now, maybe that's where it's headed. That's how it's going to work. Mm-hmm. You look again at the teams that win Super Bowls, the teams that go deep into the playoffs are not that way. They have star players. They have people they have a Chris Jones and a Snead.
They do.
Or they have, and they got the offense.
But Snead was
weird.
what? Snead was like a third or fourth round pick.
Something like that.
I know he
wasn't like
go
a super
for
high
third.
pick.
Yeah.
Was he a Ballard pick in KC?
I don't know. Boy,
Should
do I
look
not
that
know.
up. Because, but what's interesting is
I don't think so.
They did a more offense. Like it's the same with their offense. They have a star QB and a star tight end, and that was basically it. You know what I mean? Like they just.
Ballard was with us when Snead got drafted in 2020.
Okay.
And he was a fourth round pick.
Gotcha. So maybe you're right. Maybe that's what's going to happen. I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah.
I think you need to have a game wrecker at each level if possible. Like that's the goal.
Right.
And then, because here's the thing, those kind of players also make players around them better. Look when Bob Sanders, perfect example of this. Mm-hmm. He changed the entire defense with his attitude and his playing. Mm-hmm. Like, I talked to a guy who used to be Bob Sanders' like agent, I guess, back in the day, when I was in San Diego at this sports bar. I met him, and he maybe he was lying, I don't know, but he said he also was friends with Jason David. You remember Jason David?
No.
Number 42, I believe, who was a safety. I think it was a safety or a corner that played with Bob Sanders in the year we won the Super Bowl. And the agent told me, he was like, Jason David was a super shy, reserved guy. And even on the field, like he didn't speak much until Bob Sanders came along. And then it sort of just, he became more like, everybody in that secondary became more like, I'm hunting for these guys. I'm gonna knock everyone out that I hit. I'm gonna deflect every pass. I'm gonna go all out. And so you don't have a guy like a Bob Sanders that doesn't, like, who on our defensive line, who in our cornerback room is going to be that guy?
Well, we don't know. We don't necessarily know what Juju is.
I mean, Kenny's a dog, but like, is he the guy that ups the level of play of everyone around him? I don't know if he is.
But I mean, I think a rookie is not someone who, like, if we're looking to make an impact this upcoming season, a rookie corner, I think, is the last likely candidate to do that. Even if he's the first cornerback taken.
You're
but
right.
Like, here's the thing. This is what I mean when I'm saying like splash and flash in the draft is going to go you're only going to know later. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We're not going to know. I mean, we're not going to know. It rarely pans out that the same year a player is drafted where you're like, holy shit, this is the freaking person, right? Like Bernard Ryman took a jump only this last season. You're like, that's our left tackle of the future, right? Josh Downs, he's an anomaly in that he had an incredible season last year, and you're like, all right, that dude's a dude. That dude's a dog right there.
Right, but you do have to kind of qualify that. He had an incredible season as a 2. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that is something you have to qualify because the reason why he had an incredible season for a rookie 3rd round pick is because Pittman was there.
Right.
Like if Downs came in as a 1, I don't know if it'd be the same.
I think we've just been slashed in our secondary in terms of just it, like with our fortune. You know, like Marvell Tell, Rock Yassin got traded for who was the guy last year? Yannick, right? Yannick Ngakoue.
Yeah.
We did that, okay, who was productive, but he's not like Samson Ebukam.
Terrible run defender.
Right? Samson Ebukam has really come in and made a difference that they were hoping Yannick Ngakoue was going to do.
You know what? He might be that guy. If we keep him on the defensive line for a while, he might be that guy that ups the level of everyone around him.
And then you've got Isaiah Rodgers, who obviously they threw him out. He was awesome. I loved Isaiah Rodgers. I thought as a return specialist and as a cornerback, he was pretty locked down. I enjoyed watching what Isaiah Rodgers was able to do year 2. But then, the gambling happened, and we obviously had to let him go.
The gambling
happened. I know. I sound like a senior citizen. And then, you had people in the past where were also drafted, like Quincy Wilson in 2017 was a cornerback taken in the 2nd round.
That guy.
And it's just, there's a lot of defensive, it looks like there's a lot of defensive busts in general, other than our linebacking core, that has not really panned out. We're hoping that Kwity Paye is somebody who takes a big leap. We're hoping that Dio is somebody who takes a leap. They were in the same class.
Is there anyone more frustrating than Kwity Paye? I mean, the guy who gets the most pressures ever in the league always and can never get to the quarterback?
I know. I mean, it kind of makes it seem like it's a little bit by design or it's a product of the system. Obviously, you're going to sack the quarterback if you can, but it just feels like they're just
into sacks.
Yeah, they're just trying to like generate the idea of they're trying to like goad the quarterback into making a bad decision a little bit. They're kind of like getting close to him and saying, throw it.
Yeah. I
don't know.
And also I guess the more pressure you get, the more likely the quarterback goes into another defender too that's pursuing. So I don't know, man. I think 15 is not the most enviable spot, to be honest. It is for defense, but again, like you said, I don't know if we can get any instant contributors at 15.
It's not unless you factor in this particular draft and how many offensive players are being taken before our selection. Draft order.
Dude, I also want to talk about the kickoffs at some point, like to end this. The new kickoff rule.
What? Why? We're talking about draft stuff right
I
now.
I know. It's just
Don't bum me out with this. We're playing makeup right now. We're playing make believe.
okay.
This is the fun part.
I'm gonna put on my fun hat.
Here we go. All right. So we have Chicago taking Caleb Williams, number 1.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Washington and New England, I think, take quarterbacks. There's a lot of people discussing New England trading out of that. I don't know. That's 3 quarterbacks. And then Arizona at number 4 will probably take Marvin Harrison Jr. Or field some offers from somebody like the Vikings, somebody maybe like the Broncos who want to try to trade up and get like a J.J. McCarthy. He also has like a lot of hype. But I do believe 4 quarterbacks will be taken in the top 10.
Ballard's going to try to trade up with Arizona and be like, look, I'll give you our first round pick and our 7th. Take it or leave it.
See what I've done with
Take
7th.
it or leave it. Kingsbury and the like.
Kingsbury's over in Washington now, but yes.
Never mind.
And then you have the Chargers either taking a wide receiver or
Bowers.
maybe. There's a wide receiver, a Bowers, or a offensive lineman. Because somebody like Harbaugh does like the big guys up front. He likes to build in the trenches.
Might take Joe Alt.
Right. And then you have the New York Giants also looking for probably a star wide receiver, okay? So you're looking at, in the first 7 or 8 picks, you're potentially looking at all quarterbacks, all wide receivers, and all tackles. Actually, you can make an argument all the way up until 8, Atlanta, that you're looking at all offense. Yes.
And Atlanta might trade up
They
for
might
a
trade.
QB.
Well, no, they're not going to trade up for a QB. They just got
Kirk.
Cousins.
That's right.
They just got Cousins. They're not going to do that.
And they gave him bank, too. They paid him money.
They're not going to do that. They're already formidable on offense. I think they potentially beef up their defense, or they trade that spot with somebody. Like I think somebody had the Colts either jumping up with the Falcons or the Bears at 8 or 9. Potentially, I don't see it happening, but potentially to get like a Malik Neighbors, to get that upper echelon of wide receiver. Okay, so let's just say, let's humor the idea that Atlanta stays with their pick and they go defense, so they go number 1 defensive player, which is probably a Dallas Turner, who's in a 3-4 technique, which is somebody that Raheem Morris he did over in the Rams, because he's the head coach.
Gotcha.
He's the head coach over at the Falcons now.
Were the Falcons 4-3 before that?
I don't know.
I feel like they were.
They might have been, but I think he would want to implement probably his system.
That's tough, though. It's tough to change systems on defense.
Is. But something that they did a lot for the Rams defense, and something that they're probably going to do a lot with the Falcons, is disguise coverage by having somebody drop back into coverage, which is something that Dallas Turner does.
I see.
So... then you've got the Jets. There's a lot of people that have Brock Bowers going to the Jets at 10. I can see that happening since they're kind of a win it window right now with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Even though they should probably take an offensive lineman. Minnesota, I don't know that they're going to be there at 11, to be honest with you, because I think they could be one of the people that go up to get like a J.J. McCarthy or a Drake May, depending on who falls. Denver could stay and pick, but I don't think they're going corner. Vegas.
I think they're going to bring Russell Wilson back. I think they're going to pay him $100 million to come back. And
I think they'll pay him money to stay away.
He's going to play long snapper.
And then you've got Vegas at 13, which they, to me, are a little bit of a wild card. I think they could. There's some people that have them taking offensive line. There's some people that have them taking a corner. I don't know about that. I know for a fact that the Saints are taking an offensive lineman just before us, and then you've got the Colts sitting at 15, where you're really looking at like, all right, a lot would have to go wrong for us to not get a number 1 defensive playmaker that's on their board.
So, who are you thinking? If gun to your head, has anybody got a gun I can put to his head?
Yeah.
Because I want a real life simulation of this. Anybody got bullets and a gun? Well, Russian roulette style.
Yeah.
Gun to your head.
Not even for the draft. Just
for fun.
Fun.
Yeah. To gamble, just like a Rodgers.
I don't know, because my gut is telling me that Chris Ballard does something uncharacteristic of what he usually does.
Do you think this year he's going to deviate from his normal?
I just think the circumstances are so. I mean, here's the thing: if he goes offense, he is trading up or he's trading back. If he's going defense, he's staying right there and picking. Because I can see him if the corner he doesn't like is gone.
Right.
Like, he's not going to sit there and try and take somebody who's like, well, we didn't get the corner we wanted, so we can go next best one. He does do best player available, but, I don't think Bowers falls. And I don't think that Cooper DeJean is somebody he wants to take at 15, especially because we don't know what Daniel Scott can do.
I think Cooper might fall to the second. He might fall to the second.
I think he solidified himself as a first-round pick. But...
maybe.
But when you have Terrion Arnold, Quinyon Mitchell, Nate Wiggins,
right,
you've got a bunch of people in the cornerback position. I really have no idea. I mean, I have no idea. I have no idea.
It kind of sucks.
It does suck.
I wish the Colts were in either the top 10 or the bottom 10.
I mean,
I think he trades down.
Has Gus Bradley? You think he trades? I
think he trades down. I don't know what kind of compensation you can get for 15. I remember last time we picked at 15, Malik Hooker was who we got. So Ballard will go secondary there if he believes that there's some, and Malik Hooker only played like one season.
Ugh.
So
no luck in the secondary with us.
I'm telling you, it's except late rounds.
Yeah.
That's when we have luck.
I also think
and second round Juju.
Yeah.
I think he's going to pan out. But
yeah.
If you put a gun to my head,
yes,
and we had to pick at 15.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Terrion Arnold.
From Alabama.
I'm just going to go Terrion Arnold, yeah.
Even though the scouts on the Colts, Ed Dodds and the folks, they value so much what they see at the Senior Bowl. And at the Senior Bowl, I think Quinyon Mitchell, his stock went up after the Senior Bowl because he was so dominant, because he was so locked down.
But did it go up to top 15?
It went up to. I think it went up. He's CB1 on a lot of people's boards. There's people that are projecting him over Terrion Arnold.
That's true, but these mocks now are starting to get too. Everybody's flip flopping. Everybody's waffling.
Sure.
Everybody's changing it to this and that, and it's like every time I look at Colts, it's Terrion Arnold, Quinyon Mitchell, Terrion Arnold, Quinyon Mitchell. Mm-hmm. Someone had Nate Wiggins a while back, and now it's like, I don't know, man. Everybody seems to think CB is where we're going. Except the one person who now says we're going to trade up to 9 and get Malik Neighbors. And I'm like, look, I just don't foresee that happening. I don't foresee Ballard going offense. Definitely not trading up.
Do you think that our position is coveted enough that somebody who's behind us, like a Cincinnati, LA, Philly, you've got Dallas, you've got Buffalo, you even have KC in San Francisco. Do you think that our position is coveted enough that someone would put together a nice little package to, switch first-round picks?
You know what? It would have to be someone who's very secondary needy. Like, because Ballard won't reach for his... If he doesn't think anyone's in the secondary is good enough for 15, he'll trade down. But there's got to be a team out there. There are teams that reach. Out of the 32 teams, there's teams that will reach for a secondary player. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it'll be Philly. Philly's just going to draft another Georgia Bulldog. We already know that.
Yeah.
They're going to draft the entire Georgia Bulldog team.
Yeah, they are. They are just the Georgia Bulldogs.
Yeah. And who else is behind us, you said?
We have Seattle, Jacksonville, Cincinnati, L.A. Rams, Pittsburgh,
I think Cincy could reach for a corner. They could definitely reach for a corner.
I think Cincy's interested in Brock Bowers. I mean...
That would be stupid, though. I mean, ever since they lost Bates and... do they still have Eli Apple? I don't know if they still have Eli Apple, who's like a middling sort of cornerback.
I don't know.
But he's like their CB1, and he's not even... He's a very hot and cold corner. Good. I don't want to take anything away from him. He's good. He's just hot and cold. So their defense doesn't scream... Again, their one game wrecker is Trey Hendrickson, and that's it. And they've got Sam Hubbard to back them up. So they got a good pass rush. But behind that, who are their linebackers? Bring Vontaze Burfict back. That'll be their best linebacker.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, these guys are... I'm looking at. They have Hilton. They have Hilton for their corner.
Okay.
He's somebody that they like.
He's solid.
They've got DJ Ivy as a corner.
I don't know who that is.
Don't know who that is.
Safety, Jesse Bates is gone. Who replaced him?
Cam Tyler Britt. He's somebody who they like as well.
He's good. Again, these are people that are all
DJ Turner.
Very middle of the road or subpar.
Right.
So I could see them reaching for someone.
Alan George.
Who are their linebackers even?
Jalen Davis.
Are those the linebackers?
No. No, these are still corners. They have a lot of corners.
You're just like reading your old high school roster.
No.
Jalen Davis, I remember him. He bullied me and he stuffed me in a locker in sophomore year.
Batchy. I don't know a lot of these people.
That's what I'm saying. I could
Davis Gaither, but this speaks to Devin Harper, Shaka Hayward, which is a cool name.
Yeah.
They have let's see, who else do they have here? Please hold. Jermaine Pratt.
Sounds like a euphemism. Hey man, how's that date last night? I gave her the old Shaka Hayward.
Shaka Hayward, baby.
Yeah.
And then Logan Wilson as well. So this is my point.
Good.
This is my point, is that there's not a lot of people on this defense that you know, but the Bengals defense is also really good.
Are they?
They are.
I'm pretty sure they're middle of the pack.
But I mean, considering not really having any star power, like they got the guys up front, they got Hendrickson and whoever the other guy is that does so well for them. But,
But the guys that make it to the Super Bowl and deep in the playoffs, the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Bills, those guys have those solid defenses, those top 10 defenses. You know what I mean?
How does their defense rank? Oof. The Bengals gave up a whopping 375 yards per game, which ranked 31st in the NFL.
Yeah.
So,
were they more of a
they're
bend,
better
don't
in
break?
points allowed, it seems like.
Okay.
They were middle of the pack. 20th, 21st.
Sounds a lot like the Colts defense back in the day with Freeney and Mathis and without Bob Sanders.
Right. But here's the thing, this is what I have in my notes, is I think Gus Bradley's system is predicated on us being up by a lot more. On even our offense, are even adding more to our strength in the offense.
What makes you say that?
Because look at the first Texans game that we played last season. They weren't able to come back because we were up so much and we were just able to bleed clock.
Right.
I think that's the game plan that they want to have. That's why they want to have a dominant run game. They want to get up by so much that they can kind of just bleed everybody dry. I think that's the way they want to be, as far as like a high scoring offense, and then just kind of like control the clock, dominate time of possession.
So you're saying the Colts want to be like they used to with Peyton, which was have the defense bend, don't break, and have the offense score every drive.
100%.
Or every other drive.
100%.
I can see that because Shane Steichen is the head coach, and he has turned that offense completely around in the best way.
Yeah.
And Bradley runs a cover 3, which is more of a bend, don't break type of defense.
It's not my favorite type of defense.
No.
It's not.
Dude, those years when the Colts ran that, how stressful was running that system?
It is stressful.
Watching every team with a no name running back run at 5 yards a clip, just eating away.
That's the thing, is that when you have when you've got Spags over in Kansas City, their defensive coordinator, who I think is freaking awesome. Yeah. The reason that situation is so great is because, first of all, he tried his hand as a head coach already and it didn't work out, just like Gus Bradley did. All right, they both tried to be defensive head coaches and it didn't work out. So now they're defensive coordinators, right? So the difference between, I think, the Chiefs defense and the Colts defense, and the reason that I'm using them a lot in this as an example is because they're the standard, they're the team to beat, is that their offense is not the same that it was, in that they needed to score so much because their defense is so much more competitive. Their defense can literally like tighten up and literally they can literally just become iron and fucking stick their man whenever those games, like, their defense is clutch, and I don't think ours is yet.
Right.
I don't think like when you look at like
but
the Rams game
in the Peyton era. the defense would be terrible, and then the last quarter, all of a sudden, Freeney would get a sack, fumble. Robert Mathis would get a sack, fumble. Someone would get an interception.
Okay, and you're looking at like an Aaron Donald or a Chris Jones who did that in the modern era for their respective teams.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a huge deal. It's a huge deal when you like, oh shit, like even looking at the Rams game that we went into OT last season, I was like, if the Rams win the flip, they're gonna win the game.
Right, 100%. I thought the same thing.
And that's the difference of whether we make the playoffs or not last season. You know? So it's just like our defense is, that's why the conversation is worth having in relationship to this and how it relates to the conversation about the draft, because what defensive player do we draft is going to make that much of a difference?
What clutch player can we find in the draft, if any at all?
And Ballard doesn't have a solid history of drafting people, at least these people in the secondary, in the first round.
Okay. All right. So, are we going to wrap this up?
Yeah, sure. Sorry.
So then I have to ask you as the last question.
Okay.
Because you have to pick someone. Gun to your head, man. I'm telling you, every barrel is loaded, every chamber is loaded. I've got it right to your dome. I said, listen, your family will never see you again if you don't pick the right player here. You got to pick somebody. If you pick nobody, you're dead.
My favorite pick, if the top 3 wide receivers are gone, Malik Neighbors, Adunze, and Marvin. Okay, which I believe all 3 of them will be gone in the top 10, the same way that I think the 3 quarterbacks will be as well. Mm-hmm. I like Brian Thomas Jr.
Really?
I think he is
At
so
15?
I think he's so explosive. I think this time next season,
15.
I think like people talk about Malik over at LSU, Brian Thomas Jr. I think was the unsung hero. He had the most touchdowns in college in the college season last year.
I like him, but I kind of see him as a black Alec Pierce. Like he's got great.
Yeah, that's. Yeah.
But I don't want that.
No. You want Alec Pierce, but black, because it's
okay. I see that.
The explosive, the separation, like great hands, touchdowns.
Not a weird face.
Well, we don't know what Alec Pierce, I guess, could be when all he runs is go routes, and you have Gardner Minshew with a limited arm strength.
That's really what I meant to say. I was just joking around, but I noticed that the route tree that was it Brian Thomas Jr.?
Yeah.
That he runs, when I watch the highlights at least, a lot of it's just the same routes Pierce runs. A lot of go balls, a lot of like stutter and goes.
Right.
Not a lot of, some posts across the middle and things like that, but not a lot. Like there weren't a lot of balls that traveled in the air 3 to 7 yards that he caught. It was always like 10 or more.
Right.
Which is cool, but it's like if we have 2 guys like that, and then we have Pittman that does it all, and then Downs who's more of the middle. I guess we would do well against teams that play man, right? Because then we'd have 2 people constantly going deep. We'd have 1 guy in the middle, and Pittman, you just pick your poison with him. Where's he going to go?
That's who I want, but if I'm a betting man, I'm going to say that Chris Ballard trades back. That's what I'm going to say, because that's what history tells us.
In the end. So if you had to pick someone at 15, it'd be Brian Thomas Jr., and I'd be picking Terry and Arnold.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people believe we will go cornerback, but maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised, but I don't think it's going to make a huge difference for this next season if we go defense.
I will say nothing about the Colts in the last couple of years has really pleasantly surprised me. It's mostly been disappointments and the gambling.
Sure.
But I hope. I think if you gave Shane Steichen, who is a huge X factor, he's already implemented the new system, he has already established what his culture is, and he doesn't have to deal with anybody who is holding out for contracts or any sort of any personnel issues on that side. That's a good point.
Which maybe makes a big impact.
We're going into this beginning of the season and into this draft very
with
stable.
No real question mark. Yes,
stable.
No real question mark.
I do see that. I do feel bad for someone like an Eagles fan, because the Eagles every year is a turnstile. It's just in and out and in and out. It's a carousel of players that are hopping on and off the freaking horses.
Yeah.
So it's just that's harder to see because I mean if I was an Eagles fan, I'd literally be like, "Yo, our defense is going to be so good. We got Oh no, he's gone. But we got the guy, the linebacker. No, he's gone. But we got that other guy that comes in. But I don't know how he's gonna do. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's.
Yeah, we talked about it last episode. One of the things we really appreciate about the way this roster is being built is that, like, we get to know these people and they stay. And I had this question for you here. I want to ask this last thing and then we'll go. Do you think with how many people we've paid, do you think they are more incentivized to play after they get paid or before?
What do you mean after?
So we paid
after
in free agency we paid so many people, right?
If now those people are like, we're gonna play,
we're gonna fucking play.
I think they are. They're gonna play their
more
asses
so
off.
than before.
I think yes, and the reason is because, and this is where Ballard I think is smart. He signed a lot of those people and or extended them through the primes of their careers, so that if they when their contract's up and they want to sign with another team, the market might not be as good for them because now Defoe's going to be 30 and Grove is going to be 30. Like they're all going to be approaching 30. So it gives Ballard more of a reason to be like, why not just come back home?
Right.
Why not come back home, baby? He's pimping them. Hey, come back home, sweetie. We'll take good care of you. You know, I'm not going to give you as much. You know what I mean? You're not going to get as much. I got to keep most of it. But still, I'll take good care of you, baby. You know me.
Oh,
you know
terrible.
the team here. You know this.
I would love if this is what Chris Ballard's voice is when he does negotiations.
He wears a Cat Williams green suit. He wears like a perm.
Hey, come on.
I want to see Cat Williams as a GM.
Hey, come on.
That'd be great. Listen, pimpin', come on in here. Why don't you come on in the room and let me tell you something about your skills, because they not what you think, boo-boo. Your skills ain't not where you think they are.
DJ, roll the track. Yeah. It'll be interesting to say the least. I'm very, very excited to do post-draft with you because it's going to be we actually do get to see Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard going to work on who it is that they want to see on the roster with a lot of stability going into the season. And again, we bank on the fact that Chris Ballard loves the draft and that he, for the most part, hits on a lot of his picks. So I'm very excited to see that with you for the next time we get to record.
Can't wait. All right. Well, that's it for the Colt Blooded podcast, everybody. That's my host,
Drew Lynch. And then that's my host. We say each other, Isaac Allen.
I, for some reason, thought you were going to say your name, and then you were going to point and say, that's my host. And then I realized, that's stupid. Why was that what I expected? Take two. That's my host, Drew Lynch.
And that's my host, Isaac Allen. We had a good time, guys. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.